Try to be the best atheist you can be, the best unbeliever. Try to do a good job on behalf of those that cannot come out of the closet, which is, I'm afraid, way too many. There's countries of people that cannot come out of the closet, you know?
Welcome to Voices of Deconversion. We share the inspirational stories of deconversion told by former Christians who are now atheist or agnostic. Our stories remind us we're in it together. They encourage us as we discover who we are and help us to embrace who we become. Now here's Steve with today's guest.
Welcome back for episode 44. Today's guest is the president of Secular Humanists of Puerto Rico. Her organization works tirelessly for the separation of church and state. Our discussion today has a little bit of a different flow to it than most of our interviews. And we get the opportunity to talk a lot about Puerto Rico, political issues, how the Secular Humanists of Puerto Rico sued the government of Puerto Rico for trying to promote prayer and fasting. She shares the outcome of the lawsuit near the end of the interview. A few times in our discussion, she uses the term nation building, and when I've heard that term in the past, it's always been with a negative connotation, like America shouldn't nation build in other countries. But when she uses that phrase, she does mean literally like to strengthen the nation. So I thought it would be helpful to mention that before the interview. That way everybody understands what we're talking about when we refer to nation building during the discussion. The final thing that I'd like to highlight about this interview, we do get into her story about halfway through. So near the end, she talks about some really awesome things going on in South America for freethinkers. There was a first ever conference down there, and she'll talk about that, the countries that were involved, and the future plans that are in the making for other similar events. We had a great discussion. It was really fun to meet her, and she has a great sense of humor. She's a strong voice for humanism, agnostics, atheists, and freethinkers. She tells some great stories, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Without further delay, here's my interview with Eva Quinones. Well, I would like to welcome to the podcast today Eva Quinones. Eva, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for contacting me. And it's always a pleasure to talk about things like this.
Yeah, so do you consider yourself a humanist or an atheist, or is there another term that you prefer to use when people ask you?
Well, I like to keep it simple, but the truth is I'm a humanist agnostic-atheist.
Okay.
And I can explain that. For me, humanism is the instructions manual to be a good atheist, a better atheist, if you will. Agnostic because, hey, there might be a God under a grain of sand in a sea in one of the moons of Jupiter. And I'm open to that. Prove it. I'm good. But in the meantime, I don't believe in it. So if I don't believe, I'm an atheist. And I'm the president of a group called Humanistas Seculares de Puerto Rico, Secular Humanists of Puerto Rico. And we work tirelessly for the separation of church and state, which is a little bit complicated here in Puerto Rico because the latest elections, this ultra-right, hyper-evangelical government was voted in, and they just insist on violating our Constitution. Our Constitution is pretty good in where it says there is freedom of religion. You can believe and, you can have your religion, but there shall be complete separation of church and state. And there is no complete separation anywhere, least of all here, even if it is in the Constitution. And we have a government that's constantly trying to preach to its citizens and to suggest and even actually claim that you have to be a Christian to be worth something. And that may sound rough, but it was actually told to me. Last year, I was in this Catholic Mass because the president of the House of Representatives decreed 40 days of fasting and prayer for the island of Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And of course, we immediately opposed it and sued. And as part of the process, I had to show up to a few of these activities, which were private in the sense that they hid the schedule from us so we wouldn't go
Wow.
and check them out. And in the last one, in a Catholic church, he actually said, and knowing I was there, we were already on first name terms, like,
Oh my
hi,
goodness.
Ava, hi, Johnny. And they
That's
were
funny.
spying my Facebook. It's open. I don't care. They can read it. But he actually stood up next to the priest and said, if you don't believe in God, you're worthless.
Jeez. That's
And
terrible.
you can believe it. And if you're a regular citizen, you can say it. But if you're the president of the House of Representatives, you keep it to yourself. Especially since we were suing you for that, for
Wow.
trying to decree a very overtly Christian activity
Yeah.
as part of your government thing. Is this nation building? I say no. Maybe some people might disagree with me, but how can it be nation building when you're excluding parts of your population? And Puerto Rico, like anywhere else, has a variety of beliefs,
Well,
and
mhm.
even atheists, and we're pretty out there too. And every day there's more. So make a little bit of an effort and be a leader for everybody. Come on,
Yeah.
is it so hard?
And when you say nation building, how do you define that? Like when you said that nation building, it's a good thing, but how do you define nation building?
Well, nation building is all these measures that a nation or a state, or in Puerto Rico's case, a territory of the U.S., has to take to build a, a country that is prosperous, that it's a place that's worth leaving to your kids, that has like good infrastructure, that has good mechanisms for the promotion of individual happiness and security. That
Yeah.
is nation building. It is those long term and medium term measures that are not populism, that are like
Yeah.
short term bandages, if you will. But nation building is something else. It's like in bigger scope, thinking not of the immediate benefit or real or unreal, but the more for the future, more for nation building.
Yeah. 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 Almost literally what it
You get it?
says. Yeah.
Yeah.
Strengthening your country, building it up. And it's interesting because those comments were made at a time when, of course, Puerto Rico's gone through a whole lot over the last year. Um, and it just seems so counterproductive to be so divisive on their part, publicly, with trying to basically say that, if I mean, essentially, I feel like they're saying if you're Puerto Rican, you need to be a Christian.
Actually, that is exactly what they are saying. And the thing is that this was happening not after Maria. This was in the year previous to the Hurricane Maria. Everybody
Okay.
knows about that, I hope.
Yeah.
And it was it was as taken as a measure for the economic benefit and prosperity of the island, because you know that Puerto Rico had to declare a special bankruptcy in May of last year. So that was like something to avoid, to having a God, I suppose, a Christian version of it, to rain down some prosperity in the island. And of course, if you believe in that, and if you think that a God can bring prosperity, or preaching, or praying, or fasting, or acts of self humiliation, as they also call it,
Mm-hmm.
then the God would, if you can think a God can do that for the island, you can also think that a God can bring a hurricane. I
Yeah.
mean, why not? So we had Hurricane Irma in early September. which didn't actually hit the island, but it passed like 40, 45 miles outside of exactly the town where I live.
Wow.
And it was horrendous, and no power. And it was massive destruction, even though it was a very regional thing. It was mostly the eastern part of the island.
Yeah.
But then on September 20th, uh, we had Hurricane Maria, and that thing nailed us. It plowed us, and we're still suffering from it. So if there's a God, it's like the same God that went to Haiti and did the earthquake, remember?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of either you believe in that or you don't, or your religion is another one, and let's hear it. But
Yeah.
please don't talk to me about imaginary beings up in a cloud
Yeah.
decide this stuff for us, because if that is the case, I don't want to worship that.
So
Many people
yeah.
died.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. And you said that there's still a lot that Puerto Rico is going through now, still, months and months later, after almost a year later, after the hurricanes came through. What would you say are the like one or two biggest issues that you see facing Puerto Ricans related to that?
Well, the economy, of
Yeah.
course, the economy. The economy, it's very hard to build a stable, solid economy in these circumstances. And there's still many people without electricity or running water.
That's crazy. So
Uh,
they've gone almost a year without any electricity or water.
it's beyond crazy. And it's part of it. Like, yes, that hurricane really, really, the damage it's unimaginable. Everybody has seen the photos.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, the response from the U.S., well, but they've done a lot, but maybe they could have been less bureaucratic in the beginning
Yeah.
to try to diminish the active suffering. And just these people that were sick in their beds, that needed electricity for life support, because some people keep their ill or sick relatives at home.
Yeah.
Something massive should have been done to take him out of the island. And
And take
it,
care of them.
people died, and with Irma and the hurricane in Texas, yeah, they were horrible. But you can take a bus and bus people out of there to other states. We
Yeah.
don't have that.
Yeah.
And we were still receiving people from the islands, from Antigua, from Barbuda, that, was emptied because there was absolutely nothing left after Hurricane Irma. We were
Yeah.
still receiving and hosting those people when Maria came.
Wow. So you guys
So
had extra refugees from that first hurricane, and then Hurricane Maria hits, and now you've got extra people in need, already in need before that hurricane even hit.
exactly. So, but you know, so in hindsight, you can always say this could have been done, this could have been done, and we figured that with Hurricane Katrina, the federal government would have had some clues about what to do, how to do
Right.
it, how to do it fast. And we just missed that boat, apparently, of that experience that we assumed they would have had, because nothing like this has happened in recent memory.
Yeah, and it became so politicized that I think it became unpopular for the president to, I guess, I don't know, do something significant or act like he cared more. It just seemed like he was trying to show his followers or something that he didn't really care that much or something. It was weird. He didn't seem to have any compassion, which I guess isn't weird for him, but it's in a moment like this, it's just so serious. It's just really
Let me put it this
troubling.
way.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to care. He just has to give the orders, care. Even if he didn't care, it looks good for the nation to just go out of its way to assist where people are suffering. They do it
Yeah.
elsewhere in the world, which is fine. I mean, that's good too. but we're the colony. We are the territory. We're a tiny island. We have nowhere to go. The airport was closed. You understand? It took weeks for the airport to be fully open, receiving and you know, handling all the regular planes, and people wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And right now, if you ask people, many people would say, if there's another one announced, I'm out of here. I don't care. Forget about the house. Forget about the car. Forget about mortgage, car payments, whatever. And, it's understandable. I stayed,
Yeah.
but many people I know just said, I'm out of here. It's too much. And there's people that can't say that. There's people that are stuck in their houses still without a roof. And there's piles of money sent down here, but I don't know, the bureaucracy, or maybe it is being used to politicize the situation.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. And also, 1 or 2 months after the hurricane, communications were still bad. I really didn't have a lot of clues about what was happening.
Oh, yeah, because you guys didn't really have internet connection or access to
Yeah,
information like that.
and people couldn't even charge their phones. There was no electricity, and if you had a car and a car charger, you had no gasoline
Hmm.
to turn on the car and not kill the battery. This is worse than I can ever use words to describe.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
making it. My roof, I just found some people that could fix it, and they just got done like 2 days ago. And it's a Puerto Rican guy that actually lives in Texas. And he said, well, I can do business in Puerto Rico. And he flew back. And he goes back and forth fixing roofs in Texas and in Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and he did a good job, I suppose. But they can charge whatever they want.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you do it because you don't want to be starting the next hurricane season and not have a fixed roof.
Right. Yeah. Just got to cross your fingers this year and hope that, we don't have a repeat of what happened last year.
Well, statistically, it's unlikely.
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
it's possible because it's the right time and the period, and the water temperatures are right for it.
Yeah.
But statistically, it would be very rare if we had another big one hit us this way
Yeah.
2 years in a row. It's possible,
Well,
unlikely though.
you mentioned that you guys had sued the government of Puerto Rico. What came of that lawsuit?
Well, it was actually the House of Representatives and the president who was the author of the decree, and it was signed by about 37 other representatives. And what they were going to do is separate 40 days since the start of this period in mid-February, and go to each of the districts, the territorial representative districts,
Mm-hmm.
at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, and have a overtly evangelical religious service with government employees, with other politicians, mayors, and just pray to make the island awesome. And also, one of the messages constantly repeated, I was able to go to 4 of them, was the Constitution is under the Bible. So the law of the land is not the Constitution, it is the Bible. And
In their view, is what you're
the
saying?
politicians knew the cameras. Yeah, of course. And the evangelicals, because this is exclusively evangelical. In a few occasions, they were done in Catholic churches, and in only 1 or 2 occasions that I know, they actually had Catholics invited, but it was mostly evangelicals,
Yeah, that
the
makes
most
sense.
regressive evangelicals, those that believe exactly that the Constitution can never be over the Bible, and anything that is against the Bible in the Constitution, which of course varies from cult to cult.
Yeah.
It's they cannot say that for even all the evangelical, sects.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
of course, it's the message, and most people in Puerto Rico are religious, even though uh, there's many atheists, and but still, the majority of the old people, which are the ones driving the votes,
Mm-hmm.
are actively religious, and evangelicalism in Puerto Rico is a disease. It's really a disease. It's the only construction,
Wow.
churches, and it's the same old story. People are poor. The preacher has a nice car. We even
Wow.
have a preacher here that has an airplane.
Oh, wow. So it's
Yeah,
kind of like the whole,
but
yeah, like mega church
it,
pastor type, celebrity pastor.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And they go by the same book as the U.S. with the wedge document that proposes, um, changing, trying to teach creationism, but changing it to intelligent design so people are not offended by it,
Mm-hmm.
and changing the strategy. And all the Liberty University and Liberty think tanks of all the big mega political reverends and pastors in the US, that they have these rule books about how to take over,
Mm-hmm.
and it is applied here exactly the same. Billy Graham takes a plane and comes down here too, and we have those same problems as you guys in the US,
Yeah.
except that here it may be a little bit more bizarre. How can you have the president of the House of Representatives setting up prayers for the benefit of the island
Yeah.
in as a political thing? It's bizarre. It's bizarre, especially since, it doesn't work. And you know what? They may even know it doesn't work, but they don't stop. And we have pastors and reverends in government, and running entire uh, offices, and the preacher of somebody is the the chief of staff of the governor. It's really. I went to one of those churches. It's like a think tank, like a hothouse for the religious takeover of Puerto Rico, and it was the only of those 40 days, the only one in which I was physically manhandled, to use a word, and
Oh.
pushed around a little bit, because very, very many politicians were there that day, and they have to visit that church, with some. If the who's who of the evangelical theocratic politicians has to show up to that church at least every few weeks. If the who's who goes to that one,
They're
and it's bizarre.
they're kind of sucking up to that church because the church probably has a lot of influence, I'm guessing.
Well, it's a hothouse. I call it a hothouse. That's the breeding grounds. If you want a nice job and you're the right kind of evangelical, you go to that church a few times, talk to the pastor, talk to the other pastor. You have to be sure that that day you go, a big politician is gonna be there, and opens the door.
So,
And it is corrupt. It is
yeah.
essentially a corrupt thing, because you're chosen for your religious beliefs, not because you can do the nation building.
Yeah.
I go back to that word.
Yeah.
But you know that religion is not part of it. Nation building tolerates religion, but doesn't consider religion a part of nation building, because it is nation dividing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't build, it divides.
So,
So, was it this type of thing, seeing religion influence the government? Was it that type of thing that got you interested in joining and then becoming the president of the Secular Humanists of Puerto Rico?
well, uh, mm, I, it just I was invited to join the group about 2 months after it was formed. I said yes because on top of an activist, I am just an unbeliever. That's what I am. And I want to promote other good things like reason, logic, science. And I found humanism to be the rule book of how to be an excellent atheist. And it's a good progressive philosophy
Mm-hmm.
that if because religious people always say, where's your compass? How do you know what's right and from what is wrong? And I go like, well, I can tell you it's not the Bible because the Bible is not, it doesn't really teach you how to decide what is right. It just tells you this is right, this is wrong, but there's no moral reasoning to it if it's just an order. And humanism is a framework that gives you the rules of how to be a best human without religion,
Yeah.
and also like a call to be compassionate, be decent, just because it's good for humanity. And please use science.
Yeah.
Please, please, please. So I like to think that humanists cannot be anti-vaccine, for example,
mm.
um, and stuff like that. That's why we usually like Neil deGrasse Tyson and those scientific sorts, and like the late Hawking.
Yeah.
We tend to gravitate to those characters. They just compel us to look beyond. So it's good that we can use them as inspiration for how to be a very decent atheist, a
That's
decent human.
that's great.
So that's humanism for me.
And you said you joined the group 2 months after it started. When did it start?
2011.
Okay.
So I was invited in about May of 2011, and then after a few years, I was elected president. I wanted to be president, and we were supposed to have an election last year, but we had a hurricane,
Yeah.
and that's been put into pause. Really, things here are very slow, and they're not working the same way, and we have lost so many of the young people, younger, smarter people that tended to be non-religious.
Mm-hmm.
And our organization, and every organization, not just us, like all activism in Puerto Rico is a little bit like a chicken without a head. And but it's just because of the even if it's not misery, but that something big happened, and people are being slow to come back to the fold, as I say, but we still have many, many, many good humanists in Puerto Rico, and many, many good atheists. And we're here. We haven't moved out. We live in Puerto Rico. We're trying to make do. And
Yeah.
eventually we will, I suppose. But for it to happen, there's got to be more humanism involved in everything. Not religion, humanism. We
It,
need good, decent people, less corruption, and humanism promotes that. You know.
well, that's great. And I guess I'll ask now, since we're just talking about it. If people want to learn more about secular humanists of Puerto Rico, what's the best way for them to get in touch with the group or to connect?
So we have a fan page, Facebook, Humanistas Seculares de Puerto Rico, uh, and Twitter. Um, our Twitter is USE, Humanistas PR, Humanistas PR, Humanistas PR,
Cool.
and that's us. We we did some food and help drives in December. We went to these very, very hard hit areas, which is basically okay. You take a map of the island and throw a dart. But no, we actually figured out where the worst hit parts were, and we went there, and we got help from many organizations and a ton of money.
Oh, cool.
We were able to buy supplies. I was helping another atheist group here called Ateístas de Puerto Rico, and but we also were able to organize our own drive, and we got a ton of help from um, Hispanic American free thinkers,
Oh, cool.
David Tamayo, uh, and many other groups, and they donated money and water filters and solar cookers.
Wow.
And we had some leftovers from that other Ateistas drive that got a ton of money from American Atheists, from Atheist Experience, and a bunch of other groups. We got also a lot of help from Freedom from Religion Foundation,
Oh, great.
Foundation Beyond Belief, and they helped Puerto Ricans, and after a few months after we were done, they were still like, "Do you need more? What else do you need?" And we
Wow.
were like, it's so hard to tell what else, because you can send me money, and I can go to this old lady's house and fix her roof, but we didn't have materials coming in fast enough to the island, and we didn't know like who to call to fix a roof. But
Yeah.
some of the leftover money that Hispanic American free thinkers had, they gave, which was great, to a person that rescues dogs.
Oh, wow. That's
And
really cool.
she's always short of money, vet bills up the roof, and the dog food bills. So she got a big chunk of money, and really, it helped her with the vet bill.
That's
I
great.
think it went really down. uh, But of course, there's still a lot of need. And pets, also animals. People were just leaving the island and abandoning their pets.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
it's a huge problem there.
that's a whole nother
It
thing that people don't think about. I mean, it's
led
hard enough for human beings to survive and thrive after something like that. But then, yeah, all of our pets, all of the pets would be on their own and abandoned, and that's horrible.
exactly. And people may have wanted to take their pets, but they needed a vet for all the shots in case they didn't have all the shots. And that also costs money, and the crate, and you couldn't find dog crates for a while either. So can you imagine the ramifications of this?
Yeah.
And people were just parking their cars in the airport, leaving the keys in the door, and getting in a flight and getting out.
Wow.
Can you imagine the it's not desperation, it's that thing of, I don't care. I'm getting out of here. I don't even care about my credit or anything. I'm just getting out of here, which is a weird kind of desperation. It's a very sad kind of desperation. It's like
Yeah.
throwing in the towel, like,
Yeah.
forget it, I'm out of here. And
Well,
that is still happening in a way.
but but people are doing that because they are so destitute and desperate, right? I mean,
Yeah, and the thing is that on top of all this is the bankruptcy, and we have a fiscal control board that was named by actually President Obama, and it's like a creature of Congress, and they decide the finances down here, and then you have this constant fight between the governor, the fiscal control board, and the Senate that has a guy that wants to be governor, and they want to undermine the president, the governor of the island, and this other guy that also wants. It's like a constant fight of how to politicize everything for the benefit of one person. And now they just took away all the money for the local little clinics in the municipalities.
hmm.
So they have zero funding. Come on! Zero funding for the municipality little health clinics. Like, if you have a kid with a fever, you don't go to the big hospital, you go there. They can treat baby with a fever and some diarrhea. You don't need to go to the big place, and in your own neighborhood. And it's so many things that are happening. So it's like the hurricane leaves the island every day, turns around, comes back, and starts all the tragedy in and out every day in a continuous loop, Groundhog Day style.
What's
And
giving?
people are
Yeah.
just desperate.
Well, what do you think gives you or other people in Puerto Rico hope for the future of Puerto Rico, seeing as it's been through so much?
Well, uh, I don't know if you've ever been down here,
I haven't.
but
No.
this place is nice. This place is Puerto Rico is really nice. And if you didn't know, my husband is from Minnesota,
Oh, okay.
and he's been here. He got transferred to Puerto Rico for a year, 18 years ago.
Uh,
So he gets it. He gets the island. There's many people from the U.S. living here, and they just like it. And there's
well, it's in
something
the
about
Caribbean.
being,
Yeah.
yeah, and also this is where I was born. This is where I've always lived. This is my home.
Yeah.
And if I still, can put food in my table, take care of my pets, and watch a little bit of TV every once in a while, and have some internet, I'm staying here. Some
Yeah.
people may want more, but I can live here still. My husband has a very good job, and we're lucky like that. Some
That's
people don't. So
yeah.
we can stay. We'd rather live here.
Yeah.
We have thought about moving, but no, 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 no. We're staying here.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of staying here and getting a little bit of money and being able to pay some taxes to help the economy and trying to build up local businesses so the money doesn't all go to the US.
Yeah. That's excellent.
Just to try to move money around inside of the island, like create a local economy. And we have to figure out how to export something besides tourism.
Hmm.
We gotta rebuild industry so we can export, because the boats that have to come and bring most of the food and most of everything, they leave empty. we
Hmm.
we don't have exports,
Wow.
and a lot of hotels haven't opened yet after the
Really?
hurricane.
Wow. Still.
Yeah, yeah. So you
Well.
have an idea.
Yeah.
But humanism, it's what keeps me going and positive and upbeat. And when I preach humanism, people get it. People get it. And you gotta leave superstitions behind. Let's use good data. Let's use the best information that's available to everybody. Let's use science, logic, reason, and freaking decency. And we can do it. We can build any country. We can build the world we want. But humanism for me is like that tool that motors everything, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So as difficult as difficult a time as Puerto Rico has gone through, what gives you hope is humanism and, like you had mentioned earlier, helping out your neighbor and things like that, doing good
But
and yeah.
is it different anywhere else? I mean, it's the
No.
same
Yeah.
all over the world. We're not saying anything different or weird. Just keep your religion out of the government. Let's use reason and the best ideas, and let's not be as corrupt. Let's think about nation building, not personal wealth building.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a little bit of a mindset of let's not be stupid.
Yeah. Decency, like
But
you said.
yeah, and religion is not that what moves that, and
Yeah.
we know that it is known. I'm not saying anything weird or stupid. Religion is not the way to build well thought out decency.
Yeah.
It's not the way to have a good ethical grounding to what you do or what you say.
Yeah.
I'm also, my group and me personally, we're very, very close to the International Humanist and Ethical Union based in London. And they have been of tremendous help to us. And we're very close to them. I highly recommend that group.
Cool.
We were also I also just came back from Peru, and because from the 24th to the 26th of May, there was a primer encuentro latinoamericano de libre pensamiento, the first Latin American meetup of freethinkers. And it was in Arequipa, Peru, organized by the wonderful freethinkers of Arequipa. And I was part of the organizing, or part of the groups that were invited to participate. And one day I just said, "Hey, let me call Dan Barker. He knows Spanish. He can give a talk." So I
Ah.
said, "Hey, Dan, there's this thing happening. Care to participate?" And he immediately said, "Yes, I'll pay my way. You don't have to give me a penny. I'll be there. Thank you. This is the best idea ever." So
Oh, so
Dan
cool.
Barker was there. And Dan Barker, he's extremely nice and generous and brilliant. And he stayed there and he gave like the keynote presentations. And he was so happy. He was so grateful.
That's so
And
cool.
he actually supported the organizers with a big chunk of donation. And he's committed to the next one we're going to do, which will be in 2020. The country is still to be decided, but we had participants from about 12 Latin American countries.
Wow.
We had, of course, Giovanni Gaetani from Italy, which is the outreach and development coordinator for the International Humanist and Ethical Union. Dan Barker, my group, Humanistas Seculares, I gave a conference there too. The atheists and freethinkers and humanists of Lima, Mexico, Costa Rica, Argentina, Chile, Colombia.
Wow.
It was astonishing. It was Guatemala, of course. It was really an astonishing thing we did in Arequipa, and it will be repeated in 2020. And there's many of us all over Latin America, and the Catholic Church is very important in those countries, but they're giving a big fight. And as we like to say, if you explain humanism, people get it. People get it. And we're preaching the right word, not the good word, the right word.
The right word, yeah. Well, that's
You
really
know,
cool. That's great to hear. Dan Barker was my first guest on this podcast.
he's awesome like that.
Yeah, he was great. I really
He
loved
means it.
hearing his story, and he was, like you said, super friendly and just the nicest guy.
He means it. He means it. What he says, he means it. And it was really an asset for me to think of inviting him. I just can't stop smiling about it, and him being so gracious and generous. But that's him.
Yeah.
What? It's like, let me ask Dan, and I'm pretty sure that unless he has something else happening, he'll say yes. Because he's like that,
That's just the way he
And
is.
of course, he said yes without even talking to Annie Laurie, which I think is hilarious.
Oh,
I'm sure she said, oh, I'm sure she said, heck, yes, immediately.
that is
So,
so cool. I had seen on Twitter that this thing in Peru was going to happen, so that's pretty exciting. It's the first one in, you said Latin America?
yes, because a few years ago, the Mexicans organized an atheism symposium, and I wasn't part of it. I didn't even find out about it. But the thing is that Facebook is helping us with the networking. So if something
Cool.
is happening somewhere else, you're finding out.
Yeah,
Everybody's finding out, and you can go.
that's excellent.
So the Mexicans actually did an atheism conference a few years ago, and they're also in the running to make the next encuentro de libre pensadores. And there's a few countries in the running. I am not offering Puerto Rico because we have the US dollar, that's our currency. And for most Latin American countries, the exchange
Would be
doesn't benefit them too much.
yeah.
So it's better to have them elsewhere in Latin America. And Arequipa was wonderful. I mean, Peru is beautiful. It's ridiculously beautiful. And Arequipa was so nice and friendly and warm, and everything was so good. And this is growing. This is growing.
That
This
is
is
so
growing. This
cool.
is the first one, but it's gonna keep happening, and we will. Me and my group will always be there, and we will always support Freedom from Religion Foundation and International Humanist and Ethical Union, uh, and all the Latin American groups.
Well, that's great.
We have to.
Well,
We're we are world building, not nation building. We are world building.
that's cool.
So that's what we do.
In what ways was Christianity a part of your childhood?
When I was growing up, uh, really religion wasn't very important. Remember that this extreme evangelicalism is like a thing that's been happening for about 30 years,
Yeah.
as an overt thing of taking over. And even if Puerto Rico was mostly Catholic, uh, you never heard about atheism. But my family was not religious. We got the baptism done because that's what everybody did. But at home, we never went to church. We never talked about religion. We never prayed, and it was never an issue. And we all went to Catholic schools,
Mm-hmm.
and but in Catholic school, they didn't even preach that much. It was like, let's have the teacher with the guitar, let's sing that pretty religious song, let's sell these stamps to feed hungry kids in Africa. And when we reached like high school, they would really, really, really emphasize free will and abuse of freedom. Just, just a little bit of mind control, so you're not having sex
Ah,
before marriage. That was like the main concern. Like, don't abuse your freedom, which means don't have sex. And but that was it. And think about others, give to charity. It was a very lame thing, until we got this priest, an old Spanish priest, and he started talking about the Bible. And you know how the Catholics are about the Bible, like, yeah, it's cool, but this is a fable, this is not real, this is not dogma.
yeah.
And so I was okay with all that. But since about age 14, I was like, I don't believe this.
Hmm.
I don't believe this. People don't reincarnate. When people die, no, I'm sorry, they don't come back to life. And the angels, angels, no, I'm sorry. I that those ideas, they just didn't vibe. I was like, I don't believe in them. So in my Catholic school, high school graduation, the priest tells me before the ceremony, "Hey, I'm giving you the religion medal," and I'm like, "Why are you telling me before the thing? Should be a surprise." And I said, "Well, I just knew that if you found out in the middle of the ceremony, you would just like start laughing your ass off." Can I say ass?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're fine.
Passing your ass off in the middle of the big ceremony, and I didn't want to embarrass yourself or anybody. And I'm like, dude, but you know what? I don't believe in any of this. And he says, don't worry, you're thinking about things. And that
Interesting.
was like, okay,
So
let
he
me keep
was
thinking about
he
things.
was just so what was the criteria for getting this religion medal?
that he thought I was the best student in his class. I was actively participating and critical thinking, baby.
Ah.
That's gotta be good for something. And I don't know where I got it, but at some uh, to some extent I had it, and I was like talking Bible stuff with the priest. Like I when he said, "Okay, the Noah's Ark story is fable," I wasn't bawling and crying and complaining about that bad priest. I just like, yeah, of course, it cannot be true. Hello, I mean, it's of course it's bull feces. So
Yeah.
but the thing is that I didn't believe in any of that, but I didn't know what atheist. I didn't know the word atheist. I've never seen the word. I've never read the word anywhere. I've never heard anybody say the word atheist. And if you ask me, I would say, nah, I don't really believe in ghosts and angels. But it was my weird way of saying I don't believe in gods
Hmm.
because I didn't have a word for it. It was until many years later that I found the word atheist on the internet. When I first connected on the internet, like in 98, and I'm like, oh, wait, atheist. I'm an atheist. What's this word? I didn't know. So after that, internet is where religions come to die. And it didn't take long for me to say, okay, I'm an atheist, but hey, I'm also an agnostic. And it didn't take long for me to find humanism.
That's great.
And
That's really
and
funny.
but I'm 51 years old, so I was an atheist for 30 for many years before I knew the word atheist. But I've been an atheist for most of my life,
Yeah.
and it but it's cool that I was able to find the word with the internet, and that's why I care about the internet
Yeah, and that's super important
and
for
net
that reason.
neutrality and all that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So but religion was never pushed in my house. My father was like, okay, he told me like 13 years ago, I'm an atheist too.
You're
And I'm
kidding.
like, Dad, you never told me this when I was growing up. And he said, it was never an issue. We just didn't need to talk about it because it it, it never came up.
Wow.
It never came up. We were so religious neutral, to
Yeah.
put it in a way.
It
It
was just
never came up.
like part of the background of your life. It wasn't necessarily a huge. It was just part of everyday life in a sense. It wasn't
It wasn't
like you said, this extreme
no
evangelicalism that's kind of taken over the last 30
taking
years or
over.
so.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, my mother's family is not massively religious either. And I have a few aunts and uncles that if you push them, they will say, "Ah, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in that." But of course, they didn't have the word for it either. It's not until they hear me talking about it that they say, "Oh, so I'm an atheist."
That's so
And,
funny.
and that's information for you. And these are older people. And I actually have aunts and uncles that are atheists. I have an uncle that he's very steadfastly attached to the word agnostic. But I try to explain to him, you can be an agnostic and an atheist. It's different things actually.
Yeah.
They mean different ideas. One is what you believe. One is what you know can claim to know. But
Why is he hesitant to use the term atheist?
because I haven't been able to explain it to him in a way that he understands the difference. So of course I blame me for not using the right words. Although
Yeah.
he's a very smart, actually he's a doctor. He just retired.
Oh, wow.
But some people when they're too smart, they really block other arguments a little bit because they're convinced that their own are so good. But at least he doesn't preach about it, and he's proud of what I do.
Well,
And I have this other aunt that's
uh-huh.
also proud of me.
Oh, cool.
So
Well, when you talk to just to religious people that you know, is there any stigma attached to the term atheist, or do you get a strong reaction from people when you say, "Oh, I'm an atheist"?
I don't know because I just blurted out, ah, I'm an atheist. Just that if they start talking about religion, I just say very naturally, oh, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any gods.
Hmm.
Ah, and some people are look more shocked than others. Some people just move away, but some people just say, okay, talk to me about that. And then I preach,
Yeah.
I do that. And when I when I when I talk about this, I always have to mention, listen, I'm a humanist. You don't have to be. Doesn't matter. However, you do have a duty to be the best human possible. No matter what religion you are, you do have it. And you know what you need to do to be a good human. And it doesn't necessarily come from your church.
Yeah.
But what you really have to be for, really, 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 is for separation of church and state. I mean, that is the basic number one thing. It's almost like, okay, there's humanism, but if we have a legal framework in our constitution for separation, let's make sure it happens. Let's make sure it stays that way. Let's protect that wall.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson knew what he was talking about. But if he were alive now, he wouldn't be, he wouldn't like what's happening now. He wouldn't like it. And the Constitution in the Puerto Rico and the U.S. it's pretty clear. They say different things, but the end is the same. Let's keep them separate. And most people, even the religious people, even evangelicals to a point, when you explain the separation part, they agree with it.
Yeah.
But you gotta
Because yeah.
preach it, you gotta preach that separation. Because bottom line is, if the state is promoting one kind of religion, it's declaring the others not as good. So if your religion, even if it's the same as the government's, it's not identical. It's not identical. You have the government preaching a religion that is in some aspects different than yours.
Yeah.
You cannot like it if the government is undermining your dogmas.
Yeah.
If they are undermining your dogmas, they want to implant other dogmas, government approved, and that freaks them out. And it is absolutely true. I don't say it because I want to scare them or anything, or to lie to them to make them, you know, for the for separation side. But it is true. It is true. The government was to do a washed down version of whatever religious beliefs people have for political reasons. And I fear a political theologian more than I fear, or I used to fear a political theologian more than I feared a theological politician. But they're one and the same. They feed off each other, and right now they do it because they have a purpose, they have a reasoning behind it. They want to take over. And you you can talk me out of that position, but heck, I can give you examples of how the evangelicals wanna take over. They tell you, they admit it.
Yeah. It is kind of this like covert. Well, maybe you're
So
saying the opposite. It's not anymore, but um, well, like the whole like intelligent design thing. Like I think some evangelicals, it's not like it is kind of secretive, or it's kind of they're try to pull the wool over people's eyes, so to speak. And
well, you've
they use
heard
a
of the
different
website.
phrase, and then people don't know what they're talking about, and they think, oh, intelligent design, that makes sense. But if you had said creationism, they would freak out. So they've strategized a way to try to push their agenda.
Yeah, and the teach the controversy part, which seems so democratic, sounds so fair, sounds so reasonable. Teach the controversy. But is there a controversy? How can religious objections undermine a science fact? It's
Right.
impossible. Leave that out of the classroom. Take it to your church, preach it at home, preach it everywhere except in public schools.
Yeah.
It's not science. Leave it out. There's no controversy to preach here.
Well, I think the truth is that for some evangelicals, they don't truly believe in separation of church and state because they want Christianity to be the rule of the rule of law. I mean, they want the country to go by biblical principles. They want it to be governed that way. I don't think all, but I think that's definitely in the it's in the water there in the evangelical circles.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. It's not the majority. It's not the majority, really. They want to believe that, but they're not the majority. The thing is that they are so organized, and there is so much big money for this kind of promotion of superstition. But no, absolutely not.
Hmm.
It's not that many evangelicals. I make a distinction. There's theologians with evangelical theologians with political motivations and politicians with theological motivations, and they are a subset of religious people.
Hmm.
They are not the majority. They are well organized and well financed, and it's this minority that wants to give the impression that they are majority, and the only thing that they want is to take over all the government and all the offices and all the departments of government, and they are in a way doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but really they are not the majority. And it's because people still think to an extent that separation is there for a good reason, and we have to keep preaching this. The minority of theocrats is not really huge, but they put Trump in there. So they are to be feared. However,
Yeah.
of course, because somebody has to talk about Trump after you did a while ago.
I brought it up. My fault.
But Trump is gonna pass. Trump is gonna go away. Trump is just like a bad lesson. The United States is bigger than its presidents,
That's
and
awesome.
people are freaking out because of Trump. And yeah, he's done some bizarre things, to put it mildly. But the U.S. is bigger than that, and there's gonna be some lessons learned, and it's not gonna happen again. I tell you,
I really hope
people
so.
are understanding separation, and the next candidate that wants to oppose Trump has to talk about separation specifically.
That would be
Has to talk
nice.
about has to talk about another kind of equality, like a fair and decent and honest equality. They have to talk not about blacks or about whites or women, but they have to do a bigger nation peace building, message.
Yeah, a unifying
And
message for the whole country.
yeah, like let's forget our colors, let's forget our genders, let's forget about our sexualities for a moment. Let's forget about if we're vegans or meat eaters or have guns or not. There is something else we have to do, and it's build the nation. And tolerance have to be back in fashion,
Yeah.
and that's gonna shut up the extremists from every side.
Well,
I'm sure, like a fair and decent tolerance is gonna shut up the fringes in every position, and that's I think that's part of nation building. No, I talk
yeah.
about this a lot.
That's okay. That's I mean that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because I know that you're passionate about this.
Yeah, because if you're a humanist, first of all, you're a human, and where humans dwell is called Earth. So far, we don't know of any other place where humans dwell. So we gotta get our thinking hats on and figure out how to do this for not only for our little corners of the world, but we have internet. We can talk to people anywhere in the world. Let's let's nation build all the nations.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit happening. Oh, oops, sorry. Could
You're
I don't know if
fine.
I could
No,
say that
you can
word.
swear, yeah. I should have mentioned
But
that. Yeah.
yeah, because I'm really a potty mouth. I swear like a sailor.
Okay, well go for it. You
Uh,
can
it,
let loose now.
it's hard to control myself, but I'm on TV a lot and on the radio, so I can
Control it if you
swear.
have
I
to.
can shut down my swear side of the brain pretty easily, and I'm pretty creative at finding words to express what I want to express with a nasty word. But yeah, the whatever happens in Korea affects us in a way. So we should
Hmm.
care. We
Yeah.
should care. That's why nationalism is so tricky nowadays. Because maybe 1, 2, 3 centuries ago, yeah, you could care in a different way about your nation. But nowadays, you cannot really be too against any other country because they're part of this global community, and everybody needs each other in a lesser or higher degree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I talk about nation building, but it's making this a nice world. I have a 13-year-old son. He's my little humanist, and
That's
I like
cool.
that. I like that, and he's very accepting. He likes people. He talks to everybody, and he's a nice, decent, friendly human. That's the best I can do, you know.
That's good.
And that's my little gift to the world. Don't kill him. Just let him do his thing. But is that so hard?
Yeah.
I'm also all for nuclear energy too. So
Hmm.
there's a reason to hate me. Not only I'm an atheist, I'm all for nuclear energy.
So the reason that I started the podcast was to really encourage people. Now you've been really fortunate in your own life that you didn't have like a traumatic religious deconversion, or religion didn't like
No,
scar you, like some people
no.
maybe it has. So but there's people who listen to this podcast who are definitely, it's been really difficult for them to go from Christian to atheist or Christian to agnostic. I always like to ask this question, and I think it will be really good getting an answer from you, someone who hasn't necessarily gone through that difficult. You have a different perspective on this.
Hmm.
What encouragement or a piece of guidance would you give a person like that?
Okay. I've I've been asked this before, and I sometimes have to counsel people that are having hard times with the transition, or they have very specific questions, or they're just looking for community, for other
Yeah,
atheists. Like, okay, the I'm not alone thing, which is like the biggest trick. Community. That's how churches happen. But it is true. It is true. You need to, even if you're having a hard time, just open your mind a little bit and reach out for other to other atheists. Talk to them. Uh, it's easier now than 20, 30 years ago. You can just go to any web page that has atheists and start a conversation, or go to a forum or Facebook. There's community, actually. It's still very hard, but it's not because of lack of community. But you have to let go of that fear of hell. Let go of that fear of hell. Try to emphasize that if you're having doubts, it is not because you don't love others. It is exactly because you love others that you're willing to question this, that can be so damaging. You're doing this not because you want to be nice and cool and different. You're doing it because you care about not necessarily truth, but you care about not believing what cannot be verified. And humanism is a tool for dealing with this, but at the end of the day, you have to reach out to other non-believers, and most of them are very nice and friendly, and you can ask them questions and ask for a hug if you need it, or who else can I talk to? Just try to open up and try to get used to saying the words I don't believe in gods. Just try to let it roll off your mouth and get used to it, and be fearless about it if you can be fearless. Not everybody can come out of the closet.
Yeah.
It is absolutely true. But if you're gonna do it, you have to honor those that cannot come out of the closet, and reach out. Try to be the best atheist you can be, the best unbeliever, and try to do a good job on behalf of those that cannot come out of the closet,
Yeah,
which
that's
is,
great.
I'm afraid, way too many. There's countries of people that cannot come out of the closet,
Yeah.
Talk about Saudi Arabia and all those places.
Wow. Yeah,
But
that's
try
great.
to reach out. Do the best job you can at questioning, and if you decide at the end that you want to believe in a God, fine, but give it a fair shot, and try to get used to saying I don't believe in gods. Maybe I don't believe, and reach out to those that can say it openly and fearlessly, because they can. Some people cannot.
So you've mentioned a lot of resources just in the, in the course of our conversation, but if you could name one resource that you think would help someone who has just deconverted from Christianity, what resource would that be?
Well, for a few years, I was one of the administrators of a very old forum that it's still up and running, called the Raving Atheist Forum.
Hmm.
There's an old backstory to that, and it's a very old forum. The owner was a very smart lawyer, very atheist, and but he was for abortion, against abortion, and a bunch of Catholics just hooked him up, in the anti-abortion thing. And one day he said, "I'm sorry, I'm a Catholic now." And
Oh,
we were like
whoa.
hysterical, like, "Okay, what do we do with the forum?"
Oh my
And
gosh.
he said, "Well, you can take it. I'll let you take it. Don't worry." And he changed the name of the page to the Raving Theist. I don't know if he's blogging. I don't know if he's alive.
Wow. That's
But
so
he
weird.
was one of the big atheist voices way back in the beginning of the internet. And for many years, he was like the big thing. I don't know who he is. He was a lawyer in New York, I think. But,
That's funny.
you know,
What an odd
that,
turn of
that was,
events, yeah.
yeah, and all because of abortion. But the I just like Christopher Hitchens.
Hmm.
He I cried that day. You know, everybody knows where they were when Christopher Hitchens died, or they should, uh, because Hitchens, he wasn't right 100% of the time, but his mind was poetry, and his tongue was a whip, and he made it all nice and good, and he made it all sound good, and you can be inspired by words. And for me, Christopher Hitchens is the man. I read many authors, but Hitchens will always be the man for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, his
I'm a
his
Hitchenite.
yeah, his
Yeah.
intellect was so amazing. It was just so fun to watch him in debates and things.
Even if he was wrong, even if he was telling a little bit of a fib, but it was poetry.
Yeah.
Who cares? He had the awesome British accent, and yeah,
That's
but
hilarious.
when he was right, oh, he was right. And when he had that fake anger arguments with the religious people, oh, man, that most beautiful thing ever. Yeah, he died too soon, too soon.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
sometimes sit and wonder, instead of what would Jesus do, I think, what would Christopher Hitchens think about current events and
Well,
things?
right, yeah.
Because he had a way to to put things in perspective for me And even if I didn't agree with him, I wanted to hear what he had to say about things.
Yeah.
And we have lost that. We have lost that. Like, and he would be the first to say, I want to hear what you have to say. Go say something stupid for all I care. But he stands on free speech for me is very important. And we're losing that.
Yeah.
And as I say, I wasn't always in agreement with Hitchens, but heck, I had to know what he thought about things.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
when we agreed, it was beautiful. When we disagreed, it was still beautiful.
Yeah,
So
it's that.
maybe it's just me.
No, it's the rational thing. I mean, it's like the he's just it. It's good to have healthy debates about a variety of topics and a variety of
Yeah.
issues. And he is someone who would think critically about anything. And it's like you're even if you disagree at the end of the day, you're smarter and you're better for having listened to his arguments or that process of kind of sorting out the facts and figuring out where you stand on a certain issue. It's those experiences that really I think make us better people.
Well, that's what I hope, huh? But yeah, and he also could talk me out of something I would think. He had that prowess, you know. But the way he could just had committed to memory so many bits and awesome pieces of literature, and those would be lessons for him. Like all the literature he read informed his ethics
Yeah.
and his morals. And then he would explain his ideas with bits of literature, and I wish I could do that.
Yeah, it's quite a
I
gift.
try to be as educated as I can and know about everything I can just because I like to know. And also, I have to admit it, I like to be right. You know, uh, it's false, humble, you know. Oh, I don't care if I'm no, I want to be right. I have to make sure I'm right, and I have to read and study so my opinions have some weight too.
Yeah.
I don't want to be this idiot that's preaching about the best life and not know about what life is. So I
Yeah.
also have a duty to be very informed in as much different things that as I can be. It's my human duty, and if I'm gonna be preaching about this, I better know. I
Yeah.
better know. Like a human duty to be as educated as you can possibly be, and that's one of the pillars of humanism.
Yeah.
No, no, read, learn, free think, reason. You know,
Yeah.
it
For
is.
sure. Well, is there anything in our conversation that we haven't discussed that you wanted to share?
I already mentioned the fan page. Our
Mm-hmm.
web page hasn't been updated in a few months, so I'm not gonna do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just tell people that please remember Puerto Rico, we're a colony of the US. You may like that, you may not like that, it doesn't matter. Just think of us as brothers and sisters. And don't forget about Puerto Rico and just show up. You know, there's still tourism. You know what's weird? Just today, my son went to the gas station to buy a bag of ice, and there was like appeared to be a tourist like in front of him in the line, and he was very angry and talking very loud, saying, I cannot believe that you don't have a sign outside of the gas station saying that nobody here speaks English. And my kid, who is fully
Oh
bilingual,
my
he
goodness.
was horrified, but he was laughing, and he said, Mom, I had to control my laughter because that guy was angry. And what if he had turned around and smacked me or something? But the guy was complaining that if there's not gonna be anybody in this gas station outside of San Juan, that doesn't talk English, so this idiot can buy $10 worth of gasoline or a bag of Doritos, and he was bitching about it. And my son, he came to the car and he was horrified. And of course, he's my son. He was saying, "This asshole, fucking asshole. That's so fucking unfair. I cannot believe he was saying that shit."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, it's like you see the viral videos of the people in the US complaining that people around them are talking in Spanish. It
Yeah.
was like that kind of thing." And I was really sad because that it happened in Puerto Rico was,
Yeah, that's really
and
sad.
my
It's like,
son saw it, and my husband, a gringo from fucking Minnesota, sitting next to me, was like, "What the flying fuck?" It's one of those things that you don't know what to say.
yeah, no, he's like so disrespectful, like he has, apparently this man had no self-awareness and no respect for others.
It's weird because if he's asking a price, he could wait 30 seconds until the attendant could find a piece of paper and write the price and show it. I don't know.
Yeah. Like
I
there's
don't
no
know. Just point at things and make a grunt. Speak slowly, but there's no need. Well, come on. That's not humanism.
yeah. Or nowadays just
That just
Google
happens.
Google Translate or something.
Yeah, just point at it and grunt. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
But it, it's like, I cannot believe this happened. It, it's it happened here. Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
It was
discouraging.
bizarre. My husband was like, "I'm fucking embarrassed," and it wasn't me. And this is big Thor Midwestern boy, in Puerto Rico, and he was like, "Oh no, oh no, I cannot believe this."
That's so funny. Well,
Yeah, well, no, funny, sad, but it's
funny
funny.
set,
We
right?
should laugh. We should laugh at anything. Doesn't matter. That's humanism too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Eva, it's been really wonderful speaking with you and getting to know you, and I loved hearing about, I guess, all the different things that you had discussed. From I think one of the things that excited me the most was hearing about that the I don't know, convention or the free thinking convention that was in
Yeah,
South
Arequipa,
America. Yeah, that's
Arequipa,
that's so
Peru.
exciting because Latin America, it sounds like there's a lot of groups down there, and it's really taking off.
It is, and it's a healthy community.
Yeah.
I can, many of them speak great English. You could do an interview. It would be so cool.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, there's a lot of one of the goals of my podcast is to get people from around the world, just different experiences, people who've deconverted in different parts of the world, because we all have a similar story, but it's so interesting to me to hear how each culture or community kind of influences and shapes our experience, and how it kind of impacts people, and it's
Yeah,
just so fascinating to me to hear. So I would definitely be interested in connecting with some of those folks.
absolutely, absolutely. And they actually, one of the Chile guys did a live Facebook with Dan Barker on Friday night, and it was really good.
Oh,
It was
cool.
really good. His name is Marcos, but I have a bunch of names, and they all speak English
That's awesome.
really well. So just choose a country. I can find you somebody.
I'll spin the globe, and I'll just point to a
Throw a
country, and
dart.
yeah, throw a dart at the map. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I can find you somebody. Yeah, and also there's a humanist. I know humanists in Suriname, in Ghana,
Wow.
in the Nigeria.
Had a couple
So
Nigerians on.
there's a world out there full of humanists and
Yeah.
humanists that have it worse than you and me.
Exactly. Yeah. Come from very difficult circumstances for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for taking the time to do this. I'm grateful that we were able to connect finally. So it was a pleasure to meet you.
And you were very lucky because I was without internet until this morning.
Oh, you're kidding.
For a few days there, yeah. I had zero internet. But
It
it's
must be
just that.
divine intervention. I'm
What
thinking.
else could it be? Of course. Oh, question. Are you going to be editing this to fit a certain length of time or what?
It's usually an hour and a half. So it'll probably be close. It'll
Because,
be somewhere in between there.
okay. And when will it be out?
I will publish it. Let's see, because I go bi-weekly, so um, let's see. I'm publishing another interview this Wednesday, so then it'll be 2 weeks from Wednesday, so about 2.5 weeks from now.
Okay. All right.
And I'll for sure let you know. I'll for sure let you know,
Please,
and
please.
yeah, I'll let you
Yeah.
know when all that goes live, and then I usually use like a photo for like Twitter and Facebook and for my website.
Hmm.
Could you either send me one or tell me which one to use? Because I know like on your Twitter account there's a photo of you, and I can use one of those if you want.
That one in Twitter is me with a sign that says this is not a church. And I'm
Yeah.
standing in front of the Capitol building when they were doing the big religious thing to end the 40 days of fasting and prayer.
Oh.
And I never told you, we lost the case. The judge threw it out because I couldn't prove damages. But
Yeah.
that's the way it's gonna be going from now on with separation cases. They're gonna be thrown out because the person suing cannot prove damages,
So
like
that's the
how I was
key.
harmed by it.
Yeah, that's the key. You got to find, you know, got to
Yeah,
find someone who's been affected, like who
yeah,
wants to sue.
but
Yeah.
and be able to show evidence, about it. So just let me know. I can give you names for other podcasts from Latin America, and my awesome friend Giovanni Gaetani from the International Humanist and Ethical Union, and he's awesome. He's awesome,
That's
and
excellent.
many others from Latin America. So just choose a country or choose a group, and I can set you up. Or I can, if you can reach out for yourself, and if they ask Eva, and I can vouch for you. So it's easy to set up. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really
And
appreciate that. I'll definitely be sending you a message and asking about some different folks to interview.
oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
cool.
Please do.
Well, yeah. Thanks
Please
again.
do.
I appreciate you taking all the time to do this. It was really nice of you.
Thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
All right. Take care. Take care, Eva.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Voices of Deconversion. Be sure to join us next time by subscribing to the podcast. If you'd like to learn more, check out our newsletter at bodpodcast.com.